Check, check, check. Can you hear me? Fucking hell. How did I forget to set up my mic? Wagwan, my people, Wagwan. Who's in the chat? Put something in the chat so I can see who you are. Don't be a ghost watcher. Don't be a ghost watcher. Put something in the chat. I'm not wearing my glasses today. Fucking hell. Sorry for the curse words. Who's that? Tony? No sound. And I fixed that shit. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Yeah. Alright. Thanks for coming, Tony. Thanks for coming. We're gonna talk politics today. We're gonna look at the three candidates from the Nigerian presidential candidates. I have a bunch of interesting videos that we're gonna get into. I'm good, man. What's up? Which Tony is this? I can't see your profile picture well. Anyway, no need to reveal your government name. I'll find out later. Love politics. Yes. It's not every time Afrobeat. The presidential election is coming, so I wanted to contribute to the dialogue, to the conversation, and like really explore. Obviously, I think I've said my candidate before, but it's important that we look at all the information available to see why the pros and cons of each candidate, and to really come to like a people's choice, to really come to like a sensible choice on who. I hope that at the end of this exercise, I'm able to have a clearer choice on who I'll be voting for personally, or I'm not voting, but or who I would want to rule the country personally. And I hope through that exercise, you can also convince a few people that might be voting to choose a better candidate. So yeah, let's talk politics, and try to participate. I'm going to be watching a couple of videos. We're going to be reacting to the game together. I'm going to be looking at some information on the three candidates, reacting them together. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not flying to vote, man. I'm not flying. I wish I could, I wish I could, but work, the lack of funds required to do so, and yeah. But I really wish I could fly into votes, but I'm hoping the people make the right choice. Make the right choice. Tony, who are you voting for? Let me know in the chat. Who are you voting for? Obi, Tinubu, or Atiku? Well, if you're not voting, who are you rooting for to win? Let me know in the chat. Obi! I like that. Why you? I see some other people are joining the live. Let me know who you are voting for in the chat. And if you Obi, why is Obi your choice? Are you just going with Obi because it's the internet favorite, or have you investigated it yourself? You have your PVC. Nice. That's what I love to see. But why are you voting Obi? Are you voting Obi? Sorry. Are you voting Obi because the people said so? Or are you voting Obi because you yourself believe that he's the right candidate? So I think this was the question that really made me want to do this live. It was basically a reaction to what Sheon said in terms of like I'm gonna touch on the Sheon versus Obi thing. I'm gonna look at the video Sheon. One of the videos, I can't go into all of them. There were a lot of back and forth. But Obi is the best candidate at the moment. Yeah, I believe so myself, but I want to carry out my own personal investigation and come to the conclusion in this live on why I think he's the best candidate among the three of them. And if you have your reasons, feel free to put it in the chat. But since you said Obi, let's start with Obi. Yeah, let me share my. So let's start with Obi. let's look into Obi. Who is Peter Obi and why should you vote for him? Why is Tony voting for Obi? And why do a lot of the internet want to vote for Obi? So, without places, we're going to start with Wikipedia. Ah, my guy. Okay, you've never joined this live for Afrobeats, but you joined for politics. I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. Obi is the grassroots choice. Majority of silent voters are voting Obi. The shock that will hit the political elite is coming. Nice. Nice. Well said. Well said. But there's a lot to say about, in terms of the grassroots choice. I assume you're talking about the poor people, the people that are not really tweeting, people that are not really on Facebook, people that are not really putting their voices out there. So you're saying that people are going with Obi, but a lot of people are saying that. I wish you could come live, and I wish you could too, man. I wish you could too. But please participate in the live. It keeps me engaged. I love your participation. Keep it going, man. But yeah, so a lot of people are saying that because Obi doesn't have a structure, a lot of the poor people, a lot of people in desolate situations are still going to go with either Atiku or Tinubu. Obi is saying his structure is the grassroots. So his structure is the people that really want change for Nigeria. And to be fair to Obi too, I think he has done a very, very good campaign. I think he has visited a lot of states. I don't know if he has visited all the Nigerian states, but he has visited a lot from what I've seen. And he has participated in a lot of debates, a lot of speeches. And his work ethic has truly been remarkable, you know. He's putting in that Kante work ethic. But, yeah, exactly, Nelson. Okay, I don't know why I'm calling you Nelson. Your YouTube name is Nelson. Did you visit all 36? All 36 states. That's crazy, man. That's crazy work ethic. And today he did the Lagos rally, which was amazing. I didn't imagine it would have that kind of turnout for Lagos. I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense because most of the people tweeting and most of the people online live in Lagos. But to actually see it in Tinubu state is crazy, bro. To actually see that kind of turnout in Tinubu's, like, let me show you guys. I mean, a lot of you have seen this already, but like, this is just pictures I saw from the rally today. Like, look at Lagos, man. Look at this shit. Nice, Tony. The youth in my village raised money and started a Labour Party movement there. I'm from Agenebode, by the way. That's my village, my bro. By the way, the people are the structure. You think Obi is not popular till elections start dropping? Election results start dropping. Facts. I'm encouraged seeing this. Like, I'm for real encouraged seeing this. Like, even in as far as Agenebode, bro. I'm from Agenebode. From Benin alone, that's almost 5-6 hours. And wow, this is incredible, fam. I'm glad to hear this. And this is part of why I'm doing this live, because I really need to understand where the people are at. It's easy for me from London, doing what I'm doing every day, to assume that Obi is going to win, because that's all I see on Twitter. That's really what I'm on my Twitter is all Obi positive. Every major influencer I know is rooting with Obi. Only a few people I know that are major influencers are putting their name behind Tinubu or behind. I've never even seen anyone putting their name behind Atiku. Yet everybody says Obi doesn't have a structure. Everybody says Obi is the people. Obi, all the work Obi is doing is just Twitter. On election day, people are still going to vote Tinubu. Atiku is losing traction. The election is clearly between Obi and Tinubu. Like for real, I agree with that. I've not seen one positive article, tweet, or post on any social media platform. Like, who is voting Obi? Like, I sorry, who's voting Atiku? Like, who? I'm looking into the camera. Who is voting Atiku at this point in time? Like, if you're voting Atiku, let me know, please. Send me there. Because I really want to know who is voting Atiku at this point in time. That guy doesn't even look like he can. I've not even heard him. I've not heard Atiku speak. I've literally not heard him speak. I don't know what his voice sounds like. Like, if I heard the voice note of Atiku, I won't even know who he is. I think I get the Tinubu thing. Tinubu's impact, most people have felt it in their lifetimes. Like, so even to say Atiku is part of this three-headed, I mean, mostly because of the North anyway. And that's why I liked the fact that Obi picked a VP from the North and a Muslim VP. And then also Tinubu has his VP from the North and Muslim tickets, surprisingly. But yeah, let's look at Peter Obi. Who is Peter Obi? And yeah, we know he's a Nigerian businessman. He was the governor of Anambra from 2006 to 2014. We know all this stuff. Born in Onitsha. Graduated from UNN. Entered business and banking. So yeah, we know the story already. The very interesting part about the story is that when he won his Anambra election, he had to like sue, which when I first heard about him, it was what really like inspired me. Like, this guy doesn't take no for an answer, that kind of thing. Some people will call it opportunist. Like my man Sheon Kuti will call it opportunist, but yeah, I think the fact that the guy knows what he wants and truly wants to improve the welfare, the state of living of his people is remarkable. So he lost an election to Ngige. Ngige was declared the winner, and then he sued for the election in 2003, and then won, and then assumed office in March 2006. It was impeached, which is crazy. It was impeached in that when he won, and then go back to office 2007. It was removed again when the 2007 came, because 2007 was the end of 4 years, because he spent all that 4 years suing, and then he went back to sue again. He went back to sue again to like go back to position, and then he was re-elected in 2010 after he left office in 2014. And this is another thing I'm trying to understand, and I'm really trying to understand this. Did Obi do a good job for Anambra State? This is one of the questions I really want to answer in this live. Do you guys think he did a good job for Anambra State? Because I know Anambra, or I visited Anambra when I was younger, and when I was still in Nigeria. I visited Anambra in, would I say 2014, 2015, and this was right around when Obi left office. This was right around when Obi left office in 2014, and I was passing, I don't know what they call it, is it Rainbow Bridge or that Anambra Bridge basically. I was passing that bridge and I was looking at Anambra, and I was like, and I have a lot of Igbo friends. You're in the chat. You can vouch for as being one of my Igbo friends. I have a lot of friends from Anambra, even though you're from Imo, but I have a lot of friends from Anambra. And Onitsha Bridge, thank you, Onitsha Bridge. And I have a lot, and I was crossing that bridge, and the bridge looks so good. Like, the roads look so good. Like, and I was surprised because when people talked about Anambra, They always talked about Anambra like it was this. I mean, I've heard a lot about market jokes growing up. I always think Anambra was this village in my mind. Because when I went to Edo State, as compared to Lagos, it was a village. So we used to say, we're going back to village. You know, we're going back to village for Christmas, we're going back to village. So all those states, Anambra, Edo State, Imo State, in my eyes, as compared to Lagos, they were always the village. But Anambra has the best road network in Nigeria. Yes, because I went to Anambra in 2014, so this was right around when Obi finished his terms. And I went to Anambra and I was like, this place actually looks good. Like, I could live here. Like, Anambra actually looks good. Onitsha actually looks good. So it's not only Lagos that is developing. So years later, when I saw this Obi's campaign, and I saw that Obi actually handled Anambra from around 2006 when he took office to 2014, it made sense in my mind that Obi did a good job, because before, my people used to tell me that Anambra was village, Anambra was bad. And then in 2014, I went there, and some of my friends were now telling me that Anambra is good, and I was seeing with my eyes that Anambra was good. So it looked like Obi had done a good job. And then when you look at all the accolades, I don't know if it is in his Wikipedia page, but when you look at all the accolades after he left, and all the awards he got after he left Anambra, I don't know if it's here. The Pandora Papers. We're gonna get into the Pandora Papers too. I'm gonna get into the Pandora Papers. Okay, it's not on this Wikipedia page, but I saw the statistics after I left Anambra, and it was like Anambra climbed to the number 1 or number 2 in education from when Obi was there, and from when Obi was in the office and when he left office. Anambra's road networking was one of the best in Nigeria. My guy Tony is in the chat saying the same thing. And when you see all these statistics, it's very because I'm not there, I'm not in these states, so I wish more people from Anambra could actually come on this live and really tell me, but obviously I don't have that big of an audience yet. But I really want to know Anambra before and after Obi. Did Obi do a good job of Anambra? That's what I really want to know. He said, by the way, Rochas Okorocha of Imo won his election under Abga because people wanted him to implement the same thing Obi was doing in Anambra. Which makes sense. So, did Obi not do a good job in Anambra? And Sheon attacked Obi by saying, let me show you the Sheon's tweet. Sheon attacked Obi by posting he posted this. Obi's government is a fraud. He posted this newspaper saying that Obi was a fraud. He said, Oga boy Peter Obi, I beg answer this. But it's ironic because Sheon is the same person that says media is a liar. And media is sponsored by fraudsters, are sponsored by politicians. Yet you are the same person citing a newspaper to say that Obi did not do a good job in Anambra. So basically, Sheon has been on Peter Obi's ass, saying Peter Obi is one of them. Peter Obi is meeting with OBJ to secure financial backing, financial support. That they are all in the same cahoots. Obi is basically a different version of Tinubu and Atiku, and I disagree. Or at the point where Shane was saying it, I disagreed. I was like, so after we just read Obi's profile. Schooled in UNN, so he did his first degree in Nigeria, got masters abroad in Harvard, got several international certificates. So he's educated, then has a history serving the people and doing a good job of it. I think I'm not in Anambra, so it's very hard for me to say. And we don't have a lot of metrics to compare Anambra before and after Obi. I'll try to look for in this stream. But so it made me like really think that, did Obi do a good job? Or am I just saying Obi did a good job because of what I've seen? And if you know anybody from Anambra and you're in Anambra in the chat, let me know in the chat. Did Obi do a good job of Anambra? And I want us to be very honest and not be emotional about it in terms of like I want to say the VN so bad. Bro, we don't have VN function for the chat, but keep spamming the chat, man. I'm enjoying your comments. But let me know, like, did Obi do a good job of Anambra? So let me quickly while we answer that question, let me quickly look at Seun Kuti's Arise TV interview. Let's quickly look at Seun Kuti Arise.
Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Anyegolu. Now to a towering legacy, a multi-talented family that's been described as Africa's premier musical dynasty, who invented their own genre of music, a unique sound known as Afrobeat that's reached audiences.
In camp, the Igbo guy said something that struck me. They said if it was another Igbo man running, they would rather vote Atiku. That's deep. That is very, very deep. So what are they trying to say with that? Are they trying to say, so if it was another Igbo man running, are they saying that other Igbo men are corrupt? I'm finding that statement a bit hard to. Are they saying that they can't trust other Igbos to run the country? They would rather trust an Atiku than other Igbos. I don't get that statement. Clarify, please.
Across the world. It was originally shaped and defined by one man, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, amid the culture and conflict of Nigeria. But today, that legacy lives on.
Let me know if you guys can hear it in the chat. Can you hear the audio in the chat? Let me know.
Through his children, and prominent amongst them is the Grammy-nominated multi-instrumentalist Seun Kuti. Beyond his groundbreaking, superbly original music, Seun, like his father before him, is also something of a political revolutionary, strongly criticizing corruption, injustice, and oppression in Nigeria. It's made him hugely popular, a hero to many working-class Nigerians.
Who you are listening to Seun Kuti's music? His music is actually not bad if you guys will give him a chance. Seun Kuti's music is actually not bad. I liked his last album, the Black something Revolutionary. I can't remember the name now. It's been a long time I listened to it, but I liked his last album.
Yes. But it's his incredible music that is still his biggest draw.
Obi is perfect for the job. If it was other ex-Igbo governors, they would not have supported them. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'm clear. Because, yeah, they are voting Obi because he's competent for the job, not because he's Igbo. And I agree completely, and this is my stance. But I think we really need to support this with evidence, because it's easy for someone that was in Anambra and felt this impact that Obi had to say it. You know, like they were in Anambra, they saw all the changes that Obi did to Anambra in their time there. But us from Lagos, us from London, and a lot of people that have never been to Anambra, it's very hard for us to come to the conclusion that Obi is competent. It's very, very hard for us. And I understand. And I think as a political participant, you should do your own level of research and not just follow hearsay. Why is Obi good? Is it because people said that it's good? Who are these people saying that it's good? They could be paid. They could be influenced. They could have their own hidden agendas. So I think that's why I wanted to do this live. I wanted to find out for myself, why is Obi competent? What makes Obi competent? We know he's educated, but a lot of these people that have run Nigeria to the ground are educated. So what metrics can we say are available that Anambra is better than it was before? That's number one. Number two, if those metrics are not available, what other criteria? How honest is he? How there's a situation of the Pandora Papers thing that it was funneling money to outside Nigeria. If he was doing that, is he really someone that has integrity? And if he's not someone that has integrity, is he someone that we want to rule Nigeria? So that's another point. Another thing that people have used to attack Obi is that he does not have any ideology. He's jumping from party to party. And I'll come to the whole topic of Nigeria and Nigerian ideologies in terms of like, does any party in Nigeria have ideology? PDP, do they have an ideology? APC, do they have an ideology? And Labour Party, yes, we know they say they are Labour Party, but have their actions shown that ideology? That kind of thing. Like, so, and another criticism on top of that is that, okay, fine, even though Obi should manage to win president, can they really do anything when the Senate and the House of Rep are controlled by APC or PDP? And that these are all good points. But I think for that one, yeah, there's an argument in politics of Antonio. I'll come to your chat soon. I can see your chat. But there's an argument in politics of whether does politics and does power go from bottom up or does it go from top down? So does power go from bottom up? Is power really in the hands of the people? In terms of like, if the people are politically inept, can the leader achieve anything? And or is it the case that if you have a competent head, everything can now flow down? And I think that is what I read, and that is what I believe. I believe that if you have a good president, it might be myopic of me, it might be naive of me, it might just be my young self talking, but I believe that if you have a good president, the president can create a culture of leadership, integrity, honesty, vision that can now flow down for the rest of the people to follow. And we've seen this happen. We've seen this with Hitler. I know that's a very terrible example, but it's the first one that came to my hand. It's the first one that came to mind. We've seen this with Hitler. We've seen this with dictators. A lot of dictators. We've seen this with Napoleon. We've seen this with, and we can even go to the good people. We've seen this with Julius Caesar. We've seen this with there's somebody in my head. Gaddafi to a degree. You get. We've seen it with this guy, this American president, JFK, that they actually assassinated. Like we've seen culture being set from the top a lot of times. Let me go into your chat. It said, but we know no other party has been able to win Anambra State since Obi introduced Abga there. Maybe that should tell us something. Facts. They can always negotiate on consensus. Leave the National Assembly and let's get Obi there first. And that's what I think. Let's fix the president first. I believe in doing the smallest possible action first. Like, when you have a lot of Nigeria is a mess. We all know Nigeria is a mess. And Nigeria is not going to be fixed overnight. Everybody knows that. But at the end of the day, should we, because we know that's the mess, should we now leave the small task we can do today, like putting a good president there? Should we now leave that to APC? Should we now leave that to PDP? Let's get the president first. After we get the president first, we can now get the governors. After we get the governors, we can get the House of Rep. After we get the House of Rep, we can face all those local government chairmen that are stealing money. We can face all of them one by one. But I believe culture is set from the top down, because most of the people down don't have the luxury of choosing culture. They're choosing their next meal. But when you have somebody at the top that can set the tone of what the country should be. We've seen this with even Kigali of Rwanda. We've seen this with Gaddafi of Libya before they killed him, rest his soul. But we've seen this, and we've seen this with a lot of African revolutionaries that Shehu Kuti looks up to. And I think even to a degree, Shehu is trying to do the same thing. We even saw this to a degree with Fela, that how culture can be set top down from one great person grabbing change in his hands. And I think if anything, what Obi has done is give Nigerians hope. Because as a Nigerian myself, and I was living in Nigeria during NSAS, I came to London not too long ago. I was living in Nigeria during NSAS, and that's the most helpless, hopeless I have personally felt, and I have seen the nation felt. And even Rwanda doesn't have the best democracy in Africa. It doesn't. And I'm not really a big Kigali fan now, but I've seen how a tone of leadership, a tone of culture can be set from top down. And I know we're in a democracy, and I know in real life it will be hard to really carry out all these things. But I think these are just excuses to not. I think these are just excuses to not put the right person there, which at this point I think is Peter Obi. But we've talked a lot about Peter Obi. Let's look at the other candidates. So yeah, Obi, we know that he's educated, and we know that he has a history of governance. Whether that history of governance is good or bad, we cannot really say for sure. Some people are saying it's good. Some people are saying, oh, Anambra, at the end of the day, is not as good as Lagos. Why is Anambra not as good as Lagos? Which I think is very unrealistic. But I think to some degree, based on my own personal experience, and when I visited Anambra, as I when Obi was living, Anambra looked like a good city. As compared to the image I had in my head of this village, this Aba market, this place where there's no civilization. So yeah, so I think personally, Obi did a good job with Anambra, is what I would say. Not the best of job. Nobody's perfect, but I think he did an okay job, despite the circumstances. Now, the Pandora Papers issue. Okay, before we even go into Tinubu, what happened with the Pandora Papers issues? So according to Wikipedia, let's look at the Pandora Papers thing. So the result of the Pandora Papers leaks. Premium Times reported on Obi's involvement in offshore companies tax havens such as the British Islands and Barbados. Obi appeared to have many shell companies in the 1990s with the Barbados-based Richards Investment Limited and UK-based Next Investment Limited. He tied back to Obi and his family. This was before he held any political office in Nigeria. Further reporting showed that in 2010 as well, Obi had Access International help him set up and manage Gabriela Investments Company Limited, a company in the British Virgin Islands named after Obi's daughter. In 2017, Obi recognized the company under the name PMGG Investments Limited and created a trust named the Gabriela, which became a sole shareholder in PMGG Investment Limited. Obi was not holding any political position at this time. According to the Premium Times report, which claimed that Obi has broken several laws to his business dealings, the report claimed that firstly, Obi remained as director of Next International UK Limited while serving as governor of Anambra State, which is a direct violation of Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act. Wow, we have laws in Nigeria, that's good. However, Obi described that claim to be misleading and wrong in an interview with Arise News. I saw that interview, stating that he resigned from all companies before taking the office of governor of Anambra State. Secondly, he claimed that Obi's non-declaration of his offshore companies broke the Nigerian Constitution's provision that require public officers to declare all their properties, assets, and liabilities. A few days after the report, Obi responded by claiming that he did not break any laws and clarified the account's money was accrued from his time as a businessman. The FCC investigated him for questioning later in October 2021 after Buhari directed all anti-corruption agencies, sorry for the yawning, it's around 11 here, after Buhari directed all to investigate those named in the leaks. However, no criminal case has ever been filed against Obi. So yeah, based on this, we can see that he had offshore companies. And then there's the whole ethical conversation of, if you are a patriot, if you are someone that is dedicated to Nigeria, should you be evading taxes with offshore companies? And that is wrong. If you are someone that indeed wants to go into politics, yes, that's actually wrong. But at the end of the day, nobody is perfect. And even though you might accuse him of that, of not being patriotic, it's not the same thing as being corrupt. So yeah, if you are someone that wants to hold your candidates to being patriotic, I see why, as being someone that is completely devoted to the country, I see why you have a fault with Obi for having offshore accounts. But then if you are someone that is going to accuse him of corruption as why you are not going to vote for him, then this Pandora Papers is not enough evidence to state that Obi was corrupt. So we'll just leave that Pandora Papers thing like that. Personally, I'm against having offshore accounts to evade taxes. If you want to, if you want to have a political career. I like this question. Chief, do you think you come back and run for a political office in future? Yes, I do think I'll come back and run for a political office in future. But it depends on how my career goes, both here and both in terms of like my personal development. I do believe that I am nowhere in terms of politically astute and politically knowledgeable to run to serve the country in any political capacity at the moment. But I anticipate growing into that version of myself someday, and I anticipate running for politics, especially at the state level. I might want to, because I'm a chartered accountant and because I currently have a career in accounting, so I might want to serve first as maybe a commissioner in finance or a minister in finance at a state capacity, if the opportunity is available. But I know that opportunity is dependent on being part of a political structure that is in power and having that relationship. So if that does not exist, then I might just start at the local government level myself, try to develop my hometown, and then if I see that I'm doing that successfully, continue to climb up. But yeah, I do anticipate coming back, but it depends on how coming back for a political career. But it depends. I don't want to be one of those people that comes to politics as a way to feed myself. I don't know if that makes sense. I want to come to politics after I've had success in business and success in career, so that I know that I am a capable person to run to contribute politically. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Tony. But yeah, that answers the question of whether I have a career in politics or not. We'll see. Basically, I gave you a we will see answer, and I'm sorry for the political answer, but yeah, man. Back to the Peter Obi debacle. So yeah, where was I? Where was I? At the end of the day, yeah. At the end of the day, so based on again, like we said, education, Obi ticks that box. Based on competence, I think it ticks that box. Based on history of governance, it ticks that box. And based on integrity, we can never really know for sure. But so far, we have not seen any history of corruption. So now let's go to our man Tinubu, Jagaban. Let's go to our man Tinubu. Let's go to our man Tinubu. Bola Ahmed. Former governor of Lagos State. And I think with Tinubu is a tricky one. I have a documentary on Tinubu that I want us to react to. But I think for Tinubu is a very tricky one because Tinubu's story is quite complex. So I'll just open the Wikipedia page now so that I have all my facts correct in front of me. But Tinubu's story is a very tricky one because in a lot of ways I won't say admire Tinubu, but I see a lot of qualities in Tinubu. Tinubu is an accountant like myself, and I trust accountants to know how to run businesses. I trust accountants to know how to be very skilled. Once you have a knowledge of finances, basically bleed to every other thing in business and in politics. And once you have a knowledge of finances and how to handle finances, then you usually become more skilled at other things from that knowledge of finances. So Tinubu as an accountant, I admire that quality in him. Then Tinubu was also part of the freedom fighters. He was part of the Nadeko movement. He was part of the people that fought Abacha away from power, which again is a good quality, is admirable. So I can't really fault him for those two things. And then Tinubu, lastly, did a few good things as governor of Lagos State. I'm chief of Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, Lagos was a good place. Like I had a good childhood growing up in Lagos State. I moved around from K2 to GRA to Akute, which is basically borderline Lagos, but Ogun State. And then I schooled in the University of Lagos. I went on to live in Ireland for a bit. So I've experienced all of Lagos for almost 20 years, and for more than 20 years. And Lagos is livable. But at the same time, I acknowledge the fact that Lagos is not where it is supposed to be based on its potential. Lagos could be so much better than what it is. Okay, the gain is a bit much. Check, this is so much better. So Lagos could be so much better than what it is. That I acknowledge. I mean, my biggest pet peeve in Lagos to this day is the traffic, man. And the traffic is so annoying. Like when I was in Lagos, I remember working an office job in the island. I mean, I eventually ended up living on the island. But when I used to live in Akute, Bega, and work on the island. You would drive on a good day in the afternoon when there's no traffic or anything. You would drive from the island to Akute, and it take you between 20 minutes to 30 minutes to get home. It would be an half an hour ride with no traffic, all things withstanding. And then you will leave work by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. and it take you 4-5 hours to get home. And I'll be like, this is not life. Like, even at that young age, I recognize how precious time was. And I'll be like, during this time, I'm a big fan of opportunity cost. So I'm a big fan of like time spent doing this. You could spend this doing the other thing. And then when you're stuck in traffic, there's really no other thing you can do and be productive in that traffic. So 4-5 hours every day. You wake up in the morning too, 4-5 hours, 3-4-5 hours, 3 hours if you wake up early. Or 3-4-5 hours to get to work, 3-4-5 hours to get back. And I'm like, this is not real. Like, this is not livable. That traffic alone disqualifies anything Tinubu did in Lagos. The fact that Lagos transportation, we do not have policies that facilitates goods transportation system, disqualifies any other development you could say Tinubu has brought to Nigeria. So, personally, as someone living in Lagos, as someone that lived in Lagos, even though people have a lot of good things to say about Lagos State, I do not think Tinubu did a good job, and I do not think the powers that be, the APC, that has continued to rule Lagos after Tinubu left, in terms of Ambode, in terms of Sanwo-Olu, in terms of Fashola. I mean, Fashola and Ambode to a degree did okay. They brought a lot of transformation in terms of especially K2, especially Bega area that was transformed. But at what cost though? Like, the traffic is still bad. Even if you guys did those major infrastructure, and they brought the BRT, we can't forget the BRT. But in Lagos till now, why don't we have trains? Why don't we have waterways? Like, we are privileged to have an island and a mainland. And the only thing that connects those two things is one bridge, Third Mainland Bridge. That's the only major thing connecting those two things. What happened to all the water? And why are we not making use of trains above water, both being a regular transportation avenue and not being something that is exclusive for the rich? Ambode and Fashola are the real builders of Lagos. The current governor is a story for another day. I agree completely. Sanwo-Olu is an embarrassment. And it might be sad. It's sad because Sanwo-Olu might end up winning governor again. If that happens, man. If that happens. But Lagos is a mess. And right onto after that entire period was when the veil of Lagos being a mess really came out. Because after that entire period, I remember they were working on Third Mainland Bridge. And as they were working on Third Mainland Bridge, we couldn't use Third Mainland Bridge. So we had to like start passing alternative routes to get home. We had to start passing 2 alternative routes to get home. And the rate, you would not believe the rate of robbery and the rate of traffic that was there. The rate of robbery, driving that road, that alternative road, I think it was 4th Mainland Bridge or 2nd Mainland Bridge. I've forgotten the name of that road. And driving that road was one of the scariest. Every time I drive that road, I used to be scared for my life because of the horror stories, the characters you see on those roads. It just felt very unsafe. Like, Lagos felt very, very unsafe after EndSARS. And for me, I was like, this is not a city. Like, if this is the best that Nigeria has to offer, I need to leave this country as fast as possible. Hence why I'm here. So, Tinubu has definitely not done a good job in Lagos. Like, that has to be said. Then we now enter the corruption thing. And the corruption thing is crazy. The corruption thing is just completely crazy. And for this, I want us to watch a documentary. I hope you guys will stay with me, but I want us to watch this documentary I found on Tinubu and Lagos. This Arise documentary. So it's called Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from drug law to presidential candidate. And I want us to watch this together. It's 30 minutes, half an hour, but it's very, very interesting. It tells the story of Tinubu and why we shouldn't vote for him. Or why we should, depending on some people.
Take away from their recruitment source. What they will eat? Cassava, agbado, corn.
Well, and I have to say, Tinubu's sound effect has been crazy, man. The cassava gari, the roasted corn, like everything has been jokes. But guys, we need to be serious about this election, man. Enough jokes. We've had enough jokes, and we need to be serious about choosing the right candidate. So yeah, let's get into the documentary.
In the morning, yam in the afternoon. It's growing here. You create demand and consumption.
So this is the documentary Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from drug law to presidential candidate, and it looks at Tinubu's rise basically from a lowly accountant in the US to a Nigerian presidential candidate and one of the richest men in Nigeria today.
On October 11, 1990, federal agents from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration knocked on the front door of 460 Taft Place in the city of Gary, Indiana. Once a booming steel town with a population approaching 180,000 in 1960, Gary was one of a number of cities and towns across the U.S. suffering from severe population loss, among other adverse effects of overseas competition on their mainstay industries. From having over 30,000 employees at its peak in 1970, the city's main employer, U.S. Steel Gary Works, retained just 6,000 employees in.
Let me know if you guys can hear the audio clearly in the chats. If you have any issues with the audio, let me know. But yeah, man, this documentary is crazy, man. Let's watch.
1990. Under these circumstances,
shout out to David Undeyin for this documentary, West African Weekly. Make sure to give them a subscribe and a follow.
This city and its 77% African American population were witnessing explosive growth in one of the only industries guaranteed to boom under such difficult circumstances. 42-year-old Lee Andrew Edwards was one of the entrepreneurs who had found a place in the heroin trafficking business, and by all accounts, he had done very well for himself. With the proceeds from his illegal business, he had bought 2 residential homes, including 460 Taft Place, an apartment building, a liquor store, and a new car, all paid for with cash. Now, according to court records from the United States Court of Appeals 7th Circuit, the DEA agents arrived at the property to execute a search warrant after a 7-month FBI investigation involving Edwards' brother, Jimmy, had implicated him as the narcotics kingpin of Gary. Edwards did not open the door for the agents, who were forced to break into the house. He then fired 3 gunshots at them, after which he surrendered. DEA agents found weapons including a carbine rifle, thousands of dollars in cash, drug prepping equipment including a triple beam scale, and several grams of cocaine and heroin powder in the house.
Damn.
He was later sentenced to life in prison, but not before something about his business operation came.
This is real life narcos, man. Real life Pablo Escobar shit.
To the fore. Federal investigators had determined that Edwards' heroin supply came from a Nigerian drug dealer in Chicago called Abiodun Agbele.
Gang.
Abiodun had earlier agreed to work for the feds in exchange for lighter sentencing, and as part of the plea deal, he revealed everything he knew about the heroin trade in Chicago. Located at the junction of 4 states with a combined population exceeding 27 million at the time, Chicago was a key trafficking hub in the American heroin trade, and as it turned out, The wholesale trade of an especially potent form of heroin from Southeast Asia in 1990 Chicago was controlled by Nigerian criminal gangs. The following excerpt is taken from the January 2001 Illinois Drug Threat Assessment published by the U.S. Justice Department's National Drug Intelligence Center. Nigerian criminal groups are responsible for wholesale distribution of most of the SEA heroin shipped into Chicago. SEA heroin, which is 80 to 90% pure, is being sold by Nigerian traffickers for $80,000 to $110,000 per kilogram.
Jesus.
Wholesalers in Chicago usually sell heroin without cutting it to minimum.
Naija no dey carry last. Naija no dey carry last. What? I didn't even know that heroin is produced in Nigeria. Talking of this amount of kilos. Hey, this is spicy.
Minimize the handling of the product and their exposure to law enforcement. Now, Agbele himself was no criminal mastermind, however. As he testified under oath, that honor belonged to a man who went by the name of Adegboyega Muiz Akonde, who was apparently his uncle.
Voila.
Shortly after Agbele's arrival in the US, Akonde had taken him under his wing and showed him the ropes of wholesale heroin trafficking. When Akonde returned to Nigeria in mid-1990, Agbele was left in charge of selling regular heroin shipments from Nigeria to Lee Edwards and delivering the profits to his uncle. In the meantime, the Nigerian-led heroin trade in Chicago fed an addiction epidemic that became so bad that it changed local health and law enforcement practices. For the first time, providing addicts with free access to safe syringes and needles to ensure that they did not share them and possibly spread HIV became a core focus of public health policy.
Bro, Nigerians were shipping in so much drugs that they had to change the health and safety procedures in America. Bro. Bruh. This is crazy, fam. This is completely insane.
In other words, SEA heroin from Nigeria was so potent and addictive that public health policy in Chicago shifted away from trying to make heroin addicts stop using altogether to merely ensuring that they used safely. A notable organization that did such outreach work with heroin addicts was the Chicago Recovery Alliance. While researching this story, I reached out to its current executive director, John Werning, to get a sense of how the heroin epidemic changed law enforcement practices from the 1990s to date in Chicago. And his comments were very predictably grim. He said, heroin, of course, has consequences, but I think we would probably say that the more major impact is the draconian laws around how heroin was policed. I think that it's pretty well established that there was a very specific targeting of folks who use drugs generally, but also heroin in particular, and it was mostly targeted toward the policing of black and brown communities.
Okay.
That's not specific to Chicago. I think that's across the nation. But just in general, I think there was a lack of compassion by government entities to give people access to the treatment that they need, or non-violent drug possession and mandatory minimum sentencing. I mean, there's a ton of different aspects of this that absolutely eviscerated populations, particularly marginalized populations in Chicago, and that's probably the advocate's view on this. Now, whether or not that can be translated into a comment about the international drug trade and specifically from, you said, Nigeria, I just don't know. But that's definitely more like domestic politics than international. Now, while all of this is going on, there's an interesting subplot taking place in the background. An accountant living in the Chicago area who worked for Mobil Oil Nigeria with a declared
the man of the year. Bruh. Bruh. Bro, young Tinubu was kind of sexy though. Young Tinubu was kind of sexy, not gonna lie. Pause. But young Tinubu was kind of sexy. Look at my man in the pro.
monthly income of $2,400 had just deposited over $1.4 million in the bank. He had no known source of income apart from his day job, but he had become friends with Akonde and Adele, discovering one key piece.
See magic. My God, that's the kind of grace I'm looking for. It was earning $2,400 a month, and he magically deposited 1.6 million in the bank. That's what they say you should save. Don't go and party, save your money.
Piece of information in the process. Drug dealers need accountants too.
Facts.
Soon, he will find himself holding and wiring money on behalf of a Nigerian heroin gang in Chicago. Fast forward a little bit to January 1992, and he will find himself the subject of a US federal investigation.
Voila.
Fast forward a bit further in the same year, and he would successfully run for office in Nigeria as a senator for Lagos West. Then,
In the same year, he ran for office in the same year. The same year of his investigation, he ran for office.
Jesus is Lord.
Omo. Information is really.
another politician, also said to have ties to international drug trafficking, would successfully run for president in Nigeria on a controversial all-Muslim ticket in 1993.
Big conspiracy.
The election will be annulled, the politician will be jailed, and ultimately another Nigerian military coup will take place in 1994. This accountant will find himself exiled and working with the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, to unseat a kleptocrat military dictator. Then the dictator would unexpectedly drop dead one day in 1998, followed in quick succession by the jailed politician with the alleged drug links. This accountant would return to Nigeria a hero and successfully run for governor of Lagos in 1999. The kleptocrat
Definitely, the sound effects are started. This was. Of course, they've started, fam. Let's enjoy this documentary, please. This is a very serious documentary about how somebody rose from an accountant, from a lowly accountant to a presidential candidate in Nigeria, and it did this. Let's find out how he did it. But let's find out how he did it. Let's continue.
dictator's erstwhile bagman, who helped launder over $4 billion, will become the accountant's new best friend. As an erstwhile Chicago drug gang's loader, will start his new lifetime mission of capturing Africa's largest subnational economy and turning it into his personal fiefdom. A major political opponent of the accountant will end up strangled to death in his bedroom 10 months
Fear accountants, my
the
guy.
election which his chosen candidate would go on to win. Said opponent's son would subsequently
Bro, this shit is crazy. Did he really? I don't know. I didn't know about this. Maybe I was too young for this shit. But did he really kill? Did the guy really die?
political opponent of the accountant would end up strangled to death in his bedroom 10 months to an election which his chosen candidate would go on to win. Said opponent's son would subsequently be offered a
Is this true? Like the guy just died before the election, and Fashola won, and nobody said anything about it. We just let it slide. Did that really happen?
cushy job working for that candidate. He would accept the offer. And
Funshaw Williams was very, very popular, you know. I remember Funshaw Williams, he built a hospital in my school that year. I think. Was it him or his son? Yeah, but Funshaw Williams was very, very popular. And he just died mysteriously before the election. And Nigerians just moved on.
if you're already struggling to follow this unlikely sequence of events, don't worry, it gets worse. A US district court would seem like an odd place to begin this story, but this is no ordinary story. The main character in this
Not
story
at
is
all.
an individual whose entire existence is as puzzlingly mysterious as it is loud and public. For at least 30 years, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been at or near the grinding phase of frontline politics in Nigeria. Yet the peak 1 inch below the surface reveals just how little is actually
Bro, this guy needs to go and retire, man. I can't even lie. Like, look at how old he is, fam. This guy looks older than my grandpa, fam. And my grandpa is old. What the hell? What more do you want? Eh? You know, Shelley. Eh? What are you looking for? Hey, God.
Known about this man, who some say is Nigeria's president in waiting. First of all, there is the age controversy. How old is the man really?
I beg, how old is Tinubu? Please let me know in the chat. Who knows Tinubu's real age? Because
What is his real date of birth? Short answer, no one actually knows. Like many Nigerians born into the less than auspicious circumstances that characterize
86.
Bruh.
Ah, 86. Can you verify that information? 86. Where do you get your inflated numbers from, please? What did you add in this team? Tony, 86. Please stop lying on the man. It's still a young and agile man.
his childhood in Iragbiji in Osun State, southwestern Nigeria. He himself may not even know. Similar controversy exists around what his actual name is. A popular theory is that Ola Ahmed Tinubu is an identity that he transitioned into at some point after moving to Lagos to live with his surrogate mother, Alaja Abibatu.
They said it's not his real mom, but they look alike a bit. Like that mouth, they have that same longer throat mouth. Iyaloja.
Ogaji. The only thing every version of his life story has in common is that for the first 2 decades or so, he was apparently invisible and unmemorable. There are no childhood friends, there are no classmates, there are no neighbors, there are no colleagues that remember him.
Sounds like a serial killer origin story.
Sometime in the mid-1970s, however, he somehow materialized at the international airport in Lagos, holding a passport with a US visa and a one-way ticket to Chicago in hand. From his arrival in Chicago in 1975, his story then becomes easier to track and verify. So what do we know about this guy? We know that he spent 2 years gaining an associate degree at Richard J. Daley College in Chicago. From there, he proceeded on to Chicago State University, where he studied accounting, completing his bachelor's degree in 1979. Subsequently, his story appeared straightforward and prosaic. He got a job as an accountant at Mobil Oil Nigeria Limited in Fairfax, Virginia, got married to Oluremi, went on to have 3 kids with her, well, after 3 fruitful indiscretions, shall we say. In a 2016 interview,
Oluremi is actually fine though. That one I can't lie. He tried with that one. I can't lie. He tried.
with the news, Tinubu claimed that his break into the financial big
Bro, this shit was so funny when I saw it.
time came at the Big Four consultancy firm Deloitte, where he supposedly received an $850,000 bonus as a result of his work on a single on-site engagement at the Saudi state-owned oil firm Saudi Aramco. Now, for anyone with even a passing knowledge of corporate consultancy pay, the categorical dishonesty in this claim needs no explanation.
Bro,
For everyone else,
an 850k bonus. An 850k bonus in the 90s. That is such a lie. 850k, to put that in context, because this is an accounting firm. To put that in context, I work at an accounting firm. It's not Deloitte, but it's on the same level as Deloitte. And they can, what we pay a partner today per year is 850k, and they'll just give that to a regular auditor and accountant as a bonus. Because of what? Because of what?
here is a current breakdown of the maximum possible amount that a partner, which is the highest attainable position, can realistically expect to earn at Deloitte USA. Bear in mind that the time period in
Tony, is that possible in Big Four? It's not possible at all, my brother. It's not possible. 850k bonus. What did you do? We rarely get clients that will pay 850k. Talk less of, so do not give that. Because if you the whole firm.
in question was sometime in the mid-1980s. So $850,000 adjusted for the roughly 2.74% annual inflation rate over the intervening 37 years comes to about $2.3 million in today's money. And even more incredibly, Tinubu claimed that he was awarded such a bonus and he was essentially less than 5 years into his career as an accountant, never mind making partner. Now, while the interview in question contains several other giant fibs, this particular one stands out because it is the first time in the Tinubu story where he himself...
Bro, 850k before taxes. My salaries were also being paid into the bank and I was not touching them. At the time, my salary deposit in the bank had risen to about $1.8 million.
Bruh.
From working. Guys, if they're not paying you above $1 million, I'm not taking that job. Does Tinubu have two heads? Does Tinubu have two heads? See, employers seeing this shit. They gave somebody 850k bonus. He was able to save over $1.8 million from his good work. If you're not going to do that for me, I'm not working for you anymore. If you're not willing to pay me over 850k in bonuses, I'm not working for anybody anymore. I quit. Fuck it. What the fuck? Wow. This is crazy.
acknowledges and tries to explain the fact that he once had a lot more money than a simple accountant working a 9-to-5 consultancy job.
Guys, get your kids to study account. If this was not a sign that you should enter the accounting profession, I don't know what else you are looking for. Roko, why are you calling me? Roko, why are you calling me? I'm on live. I'm on live. What's up?
Yeah, you're alive. Look alive.
Oh, shout out to Roko. I don't know why Roko is calling me. What's up?
Where you there?
Huh?
Where you there?
I'm on live. I'm doing my live stream now.
Oh, sorry, bro. Sorry.
What's up now?
Oh.
Okay, I don't know why Roko is calling me. But yeah, if this was not a sign that you should go into accounting, then I don't know what you're talking about. If he was still there, he would probably earn as much as Apple CEO now, for sure. He will probably earn as much as Apple CEO. But let's watch.
Could reasonably account for at that point in his career. And you should keep that in mind because this becomes more important later on in the story. Now, in any case, one doesn't need an economic study or a Glassdoor salary survey to establish that Tinubu was blatantly lying about where the supposed $1.8 million sitting in his account came from. A document whose existence has long been teased and rumored but never quite properly dissected in public domain tells us all that we need to know. This document, which was obtained from the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of Illinois Eastern Division,
Let me see why Roko is
contains damning
messaging me.
information that Tinubu himself has spent past 30 years trying to suppress, undermine, and ignore. This document contains comprehensive case files of a federal case from July 1993 containing clear and incontrovertible evidence that Bola Ahmed Tinubu was once, in fact, a bad man, handling and laundering proceeds of heroin trafficking for a Nigerian drug ring in Chicago. Now, this is not the first time that the contents of this document have been reported, but other stories that have tried to report this story have typically not gone into the detail needed to drive home the point that the man who would be Nigeria's next president is, in fact, a drug criminal.
Gang.
Tinubu's vast army of the media shills and spokespeople have spun an endless web of narratives explaining why what is written in black and white is all some kind of mistake or mischaracterization or fake news. And one of the most common defenses is what you can see on your screen right now. Taking advantage of a Nigerian knowledge gap that typically misunderstands
David is so condescending, man. Shout out to David O'Day for this documentary, but my goodness, are you condescending? Yeah, this was the article that came out trying to clear Tinubu's name as a response to the drug trafficking allegations. So you read, he just has cleared Tinubu of Lagos State involvement of any involvement in any criminal activity. He has been arrested or wanted for the crime in the US. And yeah, let's see what David has to say about it.
how US federal investigations work. This kind of narrative has been floating around the Nigerian media space ever since Tinubu became Lagos State governor in 1999. Now, explaining the efficiency of indictments in the US, H. Michael Steinberg, founder of the Steinberg Colorado criminal defense law firm, says, "What are the chances for a not guilty verdict if a federally charged criminal defendant takes the case to trial? Statistically, not very good.
Yep.
Currently, federal prosecutors tout above a 95% conviction rate. This is primarily due to the fact that most cases never make it to trial. Most defendants end up taking a plea bargain rather than risk a potentially much greater prison sentence which could be dealt them if they actually went to trial and lost." Now, what this means, in other words, is that America's feds are very good at their jobs, and the likelihood of a defendant in a federal case not being convicted is roughly 5%. Basically, not very good chances. So, could Tinubu perhaps have been part of that 5%? And if not, then what happened exactly that prevented a conviction? Among the dozens of documents in the case files, there's a sworn statement by IRS Special Agent Kevin Moss, who personally investigated Bola Tinubu's financial activities in the lead up to Lee Edwards' arrest. Here, we reunite with our old friends Abiodun Agbele and Adegboyega Moise Akonde as we pick our way through our hero's forbidden past.
Tinubu's clients.
Now, in the interest of keeping this brief, here's a Cliff Notes version. The U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, Michael Shepard, files a complaint for forfeiture of funds in bank accounts held by Tinubu as they hold proceeds of a heroin distribution organization headed by Adegboyega Moise Akonde.
So this document is basically saying that Tinubu is holding the money that they got from the proceeds of their business, which is crazy.
Tinubu's funds represent, and I quote, "the proceeds of this operation or property involved in money laundering and the proceeds of narcotics trafficking."
So what Tinubu was basically doing as the accountant, well, he wasn't the one doing selling the drugs or distributing the drugs, but he was basically using his account to launder the money because he had the knowledge of how to clean the money. So, and you clean the money by putting those money in businesses or revenues or like cash flows that that will cover up from the source of their income, transferring those monies until they look legit, until they look from their coming from a clean source and then going back to those individual accounts. So that was the job he was helping them facilitate so that they will not detect that or this big money that's coming is from drugs. And then someone like Tinubu is also good for it because he's already an accountant with a good job. So the banks would not, especially at that point in time when there's somebody, a chartered accountant working in Mobile, working in Deloitte, and so yeah, they won't suspect that kind of person immediately of doing drugs than a random Nigerian boy that is not doing any business or that is not affiliated with any company.
Shepard requests that the court adjudge and decree that the funds should be forfeited to the United States. Special Agent Moss has analyzed financial documents including bank statements, money orders, cashier's checks, tax returns, and, I quote, wire transfers of huge amounts of cash generated by individuals who are believed to be members of this heroin distribution organization. And he reaches a professional conclusion that the accounts controlled by Tinubu, and I quote, were involved in financial transactions representing proceeds of drug trafficking. The investigation, which began in 1988, has identified Adegboyega Moise Akonde and his nephew Abiodun Agbele as key figures in the trade and distribution of heroin. The investigation identifies the third individual working with the duo to launder their money as a certain Bola Tinubu.
Jagaban! Stay as be fresh. The mastermind. The mastermind behind the whole operations, man. You gotta respect, man. You gotta respect. You always need an accountant to show you the way.
In December 1989, Akonde takes Tinubu to a First Heritage Bank to open an individual money account. On the application, Tinubu gives his address as 7504 South Stewart Avenue, Chicago, which is the same address that
David, this Breaking Bad theme song you're using is it's killing me, man. I'm loving it.
Akonde uses as his heroin trap house. Special Agent Moss discovers that Mrs. Oluremi
This is the governor of Lagos State for 8 years. 8 years.
Tinubu has previously opened a joint account at the same bank with Audrey Akonde, wife of Adegboyega Moise Akonde. On January 4, 1990, just 5 days after opening the account, Tinubu deposits $80,000 into it.
Soft. 80K soft.
On a subsequent credit application dated January 6, 1990, Tinubu states that he is an employee of Mobil Oil Nigeria Limited with a total monthly salary of $2,400 and no other sources of income. He gives his address as 7504 South Stewart and lists Akonde as his cousin. Despite earning just $2,400 a month with no other known source of income, bank records from First Heritage Bank show that over the course of 1990 alone, Bola Tinubu goes on to deposit $661,000 into his individual money market account, followed by
Fraud money sweet, oh. Let's see how they're just calling these numbers.
by further $1,216,500 in 1991. And if you're paying attention, that is roughly equal to the $1.8 million he would later claim he made from Deloitte bonuses and salary deposits. Now, when Special Agent Moss interviews Mobil Oil reps about Tinubu's employment, they confirm that Tinubu works at Mobil Oil Nigeria as a treasurer in a capacity that does not involve transfer or custody of large amounts of money. Moss also discovers that Tinubu has failed to file US income tax returns since 1984. On January 10, 1992, a court order is obtained to freeze some of Tinubu's bank accounts containing the suspected proceeds of heroin trafficking in excess of $1.4 million. On January 13, 1992, during a telephone conversation from Nigeria with Special Agent Moss, Tinubu admits to the agent that he knows Akonde and that he had previously wire transferred $100,000 to Akonde's account in Houston. Further, Tinubu says that the $80,000 he deposited into the First Heritage Bank came from Akonde. Tinubu also reveals that he had additional bank accounts in Fairfax, Virginia and London, UK. Speaking over the telephone with Special Agent Moss on January 14, 1992, Tinubu admits that he knows Agbele and that he met him through Akonde. Tinubu admits that he has associated with Agbele and Akonde in the US and in Nigeria. In this conversation, Tinubu denies having any additional bank accounts in the US. On January 24, 1992, following a seizure warrant to freeze over $500,000 of unexplained funds in Tinubu's Citibank account, Citibank discovers two additional bank accounts controlled by Tinubu under the name of Compass Finance and Investment Company Limited. Citibank's account opening KYC records bring up a memorandum of association and articles of organization identifying Akonde and
Bro, so the link is even clear. So it didn't just and this is where Tinubu was kind of a bit dumb as an accountant that's received its 850k bonus. If you know these are the drug dealers, why are you putting them as directors of the company of the bank accounts you are opening in their name? You should have used other people, paid those people, and use them as directors so that there will not be a direct link to. I mean, but this is 1990s and it was caught, and this is old news now. But and I shouldn't be teaching you people how to money launder, but yeah.
Agbele as directors of Compass Finance.
FBI, please don't open up. Don't. I'm just This is all hypothetical.
and an investment company limited. Between January 30 and January 31, 1992, Tinubu suddenly does an about-face and tells US agents that he has never had any business association or financial relationship with Agbele or Akonde. This statement directly contradicts his earlier statements and the documentation from Citibank and First Heritage Bank. Special Agent Moss concludes in his submission that based upon this evidence, there is probable cause to believe that a number of Tinubu's accounts are involved in narcotics transactions. The court agrees and orders the forfeiture on August 18, 1993. Tinubu opts to fight the case, claiming that the money is legitimate and it belongs to one Kafaru Tinubu and his surrogate mother Alaja Habibat Mogaji. Ultimately, he enters into a settlement with the US government on September 15, 1993, agreeing to forfeit $460,000 of the heroin trafficking proceeds to the US government. The balance of roughly $1 million is released to him. Now, why did the US authorities adopt this approach instead of going the whole hog and insisting on litigation so as to obtain the full amount? The US just
Because they can't, if they press too much, then they can just file for most of the time, why they would choose to take part of the money and settle it is because they don't want to lose all of the money, because they know that they are working with an international citizen. So most of the time, if the person you are investigating is from another country, if you press them too much, they will just go to their country and you ban them from your country, and they'll be like, okay, fine, ban me from your country. I'm going to live in. There are millions of other countries and cities I can visit that are not in your country. So in that situation, it's kind of a lose-lose situation. So what they would rather do is that they would rather take settlement, so at least they don't lose all of the money if they cannot jail you directly. Because for them to jail you, most of the time your country has to excommunicate you. That they have to extradite you to that. I've forgotten. Is that the word? Doesn't sound right in my head. But yeah, if you're not from their country, they cannot hold you for their laws without your country's permissions. So most of the time, they will have to they will rather come to some form of settlement so that they can at least get something from all the money you stole. And if they just jail you directly too, then they can jail you directly, and then you can send the money back to your family, and whenever they release you from jail, you can go back to the money. So it's already a very tricky one when approaching these drug cases.
Justice Department's guidelines for asset settlements to cases provides the answer to this in plain English. Settlements to forfeit property are encouraged to conserve the resources of both the United States and claimants in situations where justice will be served.
Yeah.
In any case, the ascent of General Abacha and his rabid anti-American posturing very quickly led to a shift in US government priorities.
Abacha, the goat. Man, I can't imagine what it must have been like to live under Abacha, man. I'm not old enough. I think I was in my mom's belly when Abacha was ruling Nigeria. But I heard so much terrible stuff about this guy and how he terrorized the whole country. Our country's Hitler. But yeah, man, this guy he looks like the embodiment of terror. He just looks like that guy that you can't mess with.
Rabid anti-American posturing
Bring back dictatorship.
very quickly led to a shift in US government priorities. Anyone who was on board with Nadeco and promoting democracy in the face of Abacha's fascism suddenly became an ally, even if just a few years before they had contributed to a heroin epidemic on the streets of Chicago. As anyone with some knowledge of the CIA contract,
So Tinubu basically positioned himself as a freedom fighter against Abacha. So because he positioned himself as a freedom fighter against Abacha by leading the Nadeco movement, he kind of became an ally to the US, because the US that time, they were still doing their crusade of democracy around the world.
crack cocaine affair would know, even Uncle Sam can turn a blind eye to drug dealers when they are working in his interests. Also remember, it was the 1990s. The 90s were a crazy time.
Crazy
At the time when Tinubu informed the US authorities that he was a lowly treasurer at Mobile, Nigeria on $2,400 a month, after having apparently been the world's most generously rewarded junior Deloitte accountant.
The baddest accountant you've ever seen.
He was doing some decidedly non-lowly things in the background. Now, while working on this story,
Say what you want about Tinubu, yeah, but his drip is consistent. This is signature heart drip is consistent. And what is it about corrupt people and dictators and I don't know, all these tyrants? Why do they always have drip? Like, even look at Trump. Man is consistent with his red tie, red what do you call that? Fucking handkerchief in the pocket. I can't remember what they call that shit. But why do all these guys always have their consistent swag? Like, see Tinubu with his consistent like hat with the symbol. All of this from the 90s, man. It hasn't changed. Crazy.
some decidedly non-lowly things in the background. Now, while working on this story, a bit
In fact, I'm voting Tinubu over Obi just because of the drip.
of research across US land registries threw up a few pearlers like this one from the Land Records Department at Prince George's County in Maryland. Now, on January 20, 1992, barely 10 days after IRS Special Agent Moss made first contact with Tinubu via telephone, Tinubu purchased a 4-bedroom, 3,016 square foot home at 10111 Limestone Court, Potomac, Maryland, for the miserly sum of $450,000, which he paid in full and upfront, by the way. No
Cash. How much? How much was that?
10111 Limestone Court, Potomac,
450k.
Maryland, for the miserly sum of $450,000.
450,000 cash. And this was before politics. This was before he became who he is now. I can't imagine the amount of money this guy has touched in his lifetime, bro. I can't imagine the amount of $450,000 back in the 90s from accounting.
Which he paid in full and upfront, by the way, no mortgage. Now, for reference, this is what this property looks like. This was about
Okay, not in the 90s, he just did that now. I'm loving the Breaking Bad
10
reference.
days before he did his about face to Agent Moss, denying having had any financial relationship with his heroin trafficking buddies, Agbele and Akonde. Now, the obvious question raised here is one about timing. Was Tinubu attempting to hide money from US authorities by parking it in real estate once he realized that they were onto him? Where did the funds to carry out this transaction even come from at a time when his accounts were being frozen right, left, and center?
Oh, okay, this was in the 90s, yeah, correct.
Now, more real estate record searches raise even more questions about several other parts of the known Tinubu story, including his self-characterization as a bedraggled hero of the
Look at my guy in the 90s, so young, so full of crime and fraud, yet so young and innocent. Is that Fashola?
democratic struggle and the Nadeko movement under General Sani Abacha. Now, in the interview mentioned earlier, he claimed that following Abacha's coup and his eventual exit from Nigeria, that he was forced to live almost like a pauper after the Nigerian government stripped him of all that he had. Describing his weary but triumphant return home from exile, he said, "I came home with 3 pairs of trousers and 3 jackets. Meanwhile, I had no Victoria Island home to return to. It had been taken over by Abacha. They dispossessed me of the house as well as my office on Saka Tinubu Street, my vehicles and everything else I owned. They claimed they found bombs in it and dispossessed me of it. I was totally cleaned out. I had only 5 shirts, the £2,000 and the jackets." And yet, the Prince George's County Land Records Department would beg to differ, because here was our tragic, impoverished hero of the Nadeko struggle, casually dropping the minor sum of $147,000 in 1995 for a 3-bedroom, 1,668 square foot home at 12625 Hillmead Station Drive, Prince George's County, Maryland. He would go on to trouser a tidy $13,000 in profits when he sold it on just 3 years later. He was at it again in 1997, putting down the modest sum of $491,465 on a 4,558 square foot property at 1708 Parkside Drive, Mitchellville, Maryland, Again, all cash, no mortgage. He'll go on to sell this property in December 2018
Man's out here paying for these houses in cash, man.
for $700,000. What is more, these weird transactions did not end in 1999 or stop with our hero and his wife. Even their two youngest children, Habibat Oyindamola Tinubu and Zainab Abisola Tinubu, got
Guys, would you smash? Would you smash? Let's be honest. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Would you smash Tinubu's daughter? Smash or pass? Answer me, come on. It's just a question. Smash or pass?
gotten on the act fairly recently. Aged 32 and 30.
You see, this is why this guy is my namesake. This is come on, you deserve a. Wow, we're risking it for the bag though. Don't worry about the generational curses that will follow me after. Cover the face with the pillow, man. But for real though, I don't want to be smashing Abisi Tinubu though. I don't know if I can be smashing Abisi Tinubu. I'm not sure, man. I mean, she has a bit of Oluremi's genes. Oluremi is pretty, but especially the taller one. Hey. I mean, all women are queens at the end of the day. All women are queens. Please. Cover the face with the pillow. That's hilarious.
Respectively, two of the three youngest members of Bola Tinubu's family have managed to escape scrutiny, mostly because
she even got the smile of the man too.
Freedom of Information Act in Nigeria is still much more aspiration than fact. Not so in
It will be so you won't smash. Stop lying, bro.
America, where a plethora of services can pull up
you smash
all kinds of records, including birthdays, criminal convictions.
By the time she sends you 100K for dick allowance, I'm sure you change that statement. Just a small 100K for the inconvenience of smashing. I'm sure you change your mind. $100K dollars or pounds. You think we're talking naira here? This is the daughter of Tinubu, Oluremi and Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Better put some respect on her name.
And real estate transactions, especially real estate transactions.
Bro, for real, one of those properties in Ikoyi. That was also bang, man. I'll give her a solid 3 rounds for that.
Such as the ones where a 25-year-old with no known employment or source of income was able to pay $2,150,000 in 2014 for a deluxe condo at 55 Berry Street, Brooklyn, New York.
Bro.
Full and upfront.
Look at that. Look at this apartment, bro. Hey, God. I will never be broke in my life.
55 Berry Street, Brooklyn, New York. Full and upfront cash payment again, no mortgage. Or real estate transactions where the 25-year-old's 22-year-old sister, who was fresh out of music school with no known source of income, was able
She went to study music. Of course. Another billionaire's daughter went to study music, of course.
able to pay $2,400,000
Ooh, is she gonna be a musician or is she gonna end up like a DJ copy?
in cash.
But it's crazy though. You might like. Okay, fine. If you won't smash, obviously most of us here won't smash. I know most of us here won't date them. But could you be friends with someone like a Tinubu's daughter someone like a Tinubu's son, knowing the history of the father? Or would you take them for who they are?
To buy a deluxe apartment at 255 Hudson Street, New York, using the 1-inch thick fig leaf that was a company that she herself owned. It appears that Bola Tinubu's good fortune could be genetically transmitted. I mean, what are the odds that the only junior accountant in the world to earn an $850,000 bonus on a single engagement
The baddest accountant ever lived.
will turn out to have children who can buy luxury real estate in New York for millions of dollars while being unemployed with no known source of income?
Tony, are you gonna be a sellout live on stream, bro? How can you be friends with these people, knowing all they have done against you and your people? Are you not just rewarding the behavior of the parents by being friends with these people? I've always, because I know some politicians' children in real life, and even me to a degree, I'm a politician's son. My dad, even though my dad does not assume to any, but he participates heavily in politics. And I know some politicians' children, especially some politicians that have done some unscrupulous activities, I'll say that. And I've always debated myself, like, what role am I playing here, being a friend to this person? Like, am I doing the right thing by, like, being this person's friend? One part of you wants to treat them like who they are and wants to separate them from their parents, and really wants to kind of show, especially because most of the time when you find out they are politicians' children, like when you find out who they are is after you've known their personalities. So it's always very tricky in terms of like discarding them as friends after that based on your ideology. And then it now brings into the wider scope, like, can you be friends with people that you disagree ideologically wise, or you disagree with the way they live their life, or you disagree in terms of who they also associate with? And then that brings into the question of cancel culture. Is cancel culture, should it be a thing? Should we ostracize people because of their... At the end of the day, these people are kids, 25 and 22 years old. They don't really, even though they've benefited from the corruption the man has done, but they are not really to blame. They're just kids. I think what you said is the correct thing. It depends on how self-aware they are. Are they self-aware of the fact that their parents are corrupt? Are they perpetuating that corruption? Because some of these kids start running their father's businesses and running their father's political campaign. Like you can see Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump. I'm not saying Donald Trump is corrupt, but it's just an example of that. So even Davido is friends with Sheyi Tinubu, yeah, but is he friends with Davido with Sheyi Tinubu? I didn't know about that, but yeah, as Davido, I can't judge Davido for who he wants to be not friends with. But I'm saying, as Davido, if you are Davido, should you be friends with that kind of person? And even Davido is the son of another man that's a political godfather in the country. So it's a tough one. It's a tough debate still.
Income. Not great chances, but here we are. Now, in the course of researching the story, a name that kept coming...
Tony, message me on wherever you saw this platform. I want to know who you are directly. Message me. I really appreciate your participation in the chat.
up repeatedly as a comparison to Nigeria's Teflon Ashiwaju was a certain Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, MKO Abiola.
MKO!
And when the Daily Beast took a stab at this story a few years ago, a tantalizing hint was mentioned in passing about an unimaginable parallel between 1993 and 2023. I reached out to everyone I could think of with some knowledge of the affair. Most declined to speak, citing some unspoken concerns. Only Professor Gary K. Bush, a notable African political risk analyst and one-time professor of African studies at the University of Hawaii, agreed to say his piece. His lengthy comment went as follows. The Nigerian military on the council were adamant that the Babangida government should never allow Abiola to run for office, and told President Babangida so during the aborted runoff primaries before the election. The basis for their concern about Abiola was the information.
Hey, Tony, you deserve a bomb. You Don DeMarco for this comment. Being a fan since the drink show, all the man is my cousin. That's what I love to see, man. That's so you supported Booze Lovers Guide. That's way back, man. Appreciate, man. Appreciate. Ozema is my cousin. That's not that. That was good times, man. That was good times. Bring back the short talk crew, the short crew. Don't worry, soon come. When I come to Nigeria, I give him my shoot an episode.
And documentation being circulated in Washington, London, and Lagos of Abiola's alleged ties to the drugs business. The US in particular had expressed its strong opposition to IBB about the candidacy of Abiola as president, not because of his politics or allegations of corruption, but rather for the evidence they felt was correct about Abiola's alleged drugs connection. This issue was raised in the military council on 3 occasions, and Babangida.
So basically, MKO, I say MKO. MKO. But MKO basically, like, based on what this guy is saying, was also involved in this drug business. And growing up, I always hear this MKO hype. Like MKO Abiola, the first politically elected president, the only good man. Oh, if MKO won, Nigeria would have been so good. I always hear this hype about MKO. And I won't lie, even as a kid, my bullshit meters were always ringing. Like my bullshit senses were like, all the corrupt people that we've had. And this guy is the only one that would not have been corrupt. That's number one. Number two, if he was this rich and he was this philanthropic, he was always giving people money. Where did he get this money from in this same Nigeria? And then what? Anytime I used to ask, what was MKO's source of wealth? Everybody would tell me business. And I was like, what business will allow you to be dashing money the way MKO was dashing money? And apparently what David is alleging to in this documentary is that MKO was also part of the drug business. And if he was part of the drug business, then it will make a lot of sense in terms of where he got the money to fund such a political campaign. Because I think MKO to date are one of the best political campaigns ever in terms of having the people's backing and having the people's support. So yeah, let's see what David has to say about
was
this.
Warned. He refused to take a decision until it was almost too late.
So but apparently Babangida was warned about MKO's ties with the drug cartels, and it was because Babangida ended up annulling the election, the first free and fair election we had. Babangida ended up annulling it. So this documentary is saying that he was already being informed about MKO's nefarious activities. And the MKO made a bank branch manager in the UK his personal assistant. It was that rich. I know MKO was rich, but my situation was, where did he get the money from? What did MKO do to become that rich? Like, I think MKO, he was so fucking rich. He had Nigeria. He was going to save Nigeria. But my whole problem was, where did he get that money from? What business did he create that was making him so much money that is not alive today? If he was that rich, why did his death? Imagine Dangote died today, for example. Dangote PLC will still be operating. But MKO, if he was that rich and he died, where are his businesses today to show for this wealth? If they were not shady businesses, if the sources of those businesses were not shady. I'm not accusing him of anything, but I'm only saying something is not right. And that's what David is trying to get into here in this election.
US Ambassador Lannon Walker and the British consul visited IBB and warned him about Abiola, but Babangida differed, which made the impact worse as the polling had begun. When he finally decided to intervene and stop the election, he precipitated the crisis of June 12. His friends in the military supported him but felt let down by IBB's lack of decisiveness. While there was consternation in Nigeria about the ouster of Abiola, the major international partners of Nigeria were not upset or concerned because they knew what the reasons were for the development. So was the 1993 election annulled because of MP Abiola's alleged drug ties? Bola Tinubu, for one, would certainly hope not. Not only does he have very real and proven ties to the drug trade, in addition to explicitly positioning himself as the assumed successor to MKO as the political leader of Nigeria's Yoruba ethnic group, but he has also picked a fellow Muslim as a running mate ahead of next year.
Like, this shit was wild, man. Like, the audacity of Tinubu to pick another Muslim on his ticket was when I was like, this guy does not even rate Nigerians. Like, he does not. Even Buhari, ex-military dictator, still had the graciousness to pick a Christian. But Tinubu was like, nope, I need my northern vote. I don't care. I have the south on lock, even though I'm a Muslim. We're going to pick a Muslim northerner. Still, Obi picked a Christian northerner, someone that has sense. But Tinubu was like, I don't care about Nigerians, what you guys want to do. I'm picking a fellow Muslim that is a northerner. Okay, all.
Year's election. The only other electoral frontrunner in Nigeria's history to do that was, no prizes for guessing, that guy.
MK also picked a Muslim ticket.
Still, if anyone can manage to avoid having this particular bolt of lightning strike twice, it could well be Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the luckiest politician.
And this is why people always shit on Christianity sometimes, and it's a pity because I do not think a Christian can get away with picking a Christian ticket in Nigeria. The streets would hear it. I don't think a Christian can get away with it, but Muslims can do it. What does that say about Christianity in terms of what we tolerate and what we allow?
In Africa. I mean, when he needed money to launch a political career in the 90s, he apparently had $1.8 million saved up from bonuses and salary payments as a junior accountant at Deloitte, which obviously was very handy. When his chosen successor as Lagos State Governor faced a near certain electoral defeat in 2007, the more popular frontrunner coincidentally turned up dead inside his bedroom in Dolphin Estate, Ikoyi.
This is so tragic, man. This is real life Breaking Bad, real life Narcos.
One of the safest neighborhoods in Nigeria. He had been strangled to death. Naturally, the chosen successor then won the election, which was a happy coincidence. When he backed a candidate against the incumbent...
It's still wild that everybody just let that shit slide. There was no investigation. There was no... Like, there was clear motive. They were supposed to even arrest Fashola and Tinubu first. Now wait first. Because of the motive is too clear. Let's hold on. Let's cancel the election for now. A major political candidate cannot just die like that with the election days before the election. And we just continue like that.
When president in 2015, his good friend Gilbert Chaguri, the former kleptomaniac dictator's bagman, happened to have an excellent relationship with US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And she just happened to ignore recommendations from the State Department and US intelligence services to proscribe Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization, which effectively allowed it to gain critical mass and make the then government of the day even more popular. Naturally, his candidate duly won the election. Very lucky guy. When a former business partner, Dapo Akpara, took him to court,
it's radiating grace and luck. He's giving. He's giving too much luck.
Over financial impropriety and money laundering at Alpha Beta Consultants, which is basically his little...
Bro, we've not even talked about ABC, man. We've not even talked about toll gates and the money he made from toll gates. The money still makes from advertising.
To the Lagos State government's treasury. The court became
the money still makes from area boys.
First court in the history of Lagos State to burn to ashes and have all its files destroyed. The case was never refiled and it's currently being settled out of court, which is, of course, absolutely coincidental and very regrettable. The 1990s were a crazy time, and the 2020s are even crazier.
Shout out to you, man. Shout out to David, man. This was a crazy documentary. Shout out to you. So guys, I won't go much further today. The stream has already gone on much longer than I anticipated. But I hope we were able to enlighten ourselves on the two presidential candidates. We talked briefly about Obi, we talked briefly about Tinubu. This was my first attempt at a political stream. I normally do the Afrobeats news of these streams on Sundays. I'm still going to do it tomorrow. I'm having a beautiful guest tomorrow. One of my beautiful friends. Should I give her a name out? Chidima. Is gonna come tomorrow for the Afrobeats news updates. Regularly scheduled. We'll react to the latest gist in Afrobeats. Talk about the music scene. But yeah, we couldn't get into Atiku today, so I'll probably have another episode of this next week. Luckily, it's still going to be before the election on 25th of February. But yeah, man, thank you so much, Tony. This was fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed getting to know more about the political candidates. Because yeah, we really have to do the groundwork for ourselves to investigate. We can't just follow what the media says in terms of, oh, this is the candidate you should vote for. This is kind of like, there's so much news coming from so much directions that we need to really understand. Okay, is Obi, if it's Obi you want to vote for, why are you voting for Obi? Is this because you have checked for yourself that Obi is the right man for the job? And that's what I'm trying to attempt to do in these political streams. And yeah, who knows, I could even continue this after the political elections. Hopefully God will give me the time and energy and effort to do this. But yeah, I can continue to do this after Saturday nights, political streams. Like, we all need to participate in politics. Politics affects our lives, our daily lives, like, see me now, I'm in London. I could be in my hometown, like Nigeria. I don't want to be here. Nobody that leaves Nigeria to London really wants to fucking be in this cold. But we want a country that works, and we want a country that works in our lifetime. We want a country that we can take our kids to and learn and grow and be a part of the culture. So yeah, man, thank you so much, everyone that participated. I'll see you guys. Please make sure to tune in tomorrow and subsequently the next weeks for the next couple of streams. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you so much, Iwobi. Love you guys. Take care.